Have you ever felt like you were in a dead end and you had nowhere to turn and things were getting darker and darker?
Hello, my name is Mora, and this is the story of how I came to live in the lovely country of Mexico. I'm originally from the United States, mostly Northern California, but for the last year and a half, I lived in Southern Oregon. And, hi lovely. In late March, I drove my car from Oregon to Mexico to start over and make a new life. I'm 57 years old, and I have one grown, beautiful son in California. And I was a nurse for 28 years before I came to Mexico. And this is my story of how I came to Mexico. A long time ago, I was a single teenage mother on welfare for a while, and the way I got out of that poverty was to set myself a goal, go to college, and get a job that would provide for me and my son. I became a nurse 28 years ago, and primarily I've worked in the operating room and surgery, which became a problem after a while, after a few decades. I was glad to be a nurse, and I was glad to work hard and have enough money to pay my bills and even save some money too. But the back-breaking work was wearing on me after decades. I was really glad I could always get another job. There are many jobs out there for experienced nurses, and I was grateful to have enough money to take care of myself. But it was a stifling corporate environment. There are more and more very sick patients with back-breaking work in a hospital that would push us to go faster and do more with less resources, less people, less staff. There was never getting any real time off unless I quit a job and started anew in another job. And then there was rushing for an emergency at 3 a.m. when I was on call for the hospital. The whole process over the years really started to wear on me. And then there's getting along with all the other stressed out, crazy people too. Though I was becoming more and more unhappy with the work, I wouldn't allow myself to make any other choice. I had to have this job. Of course, everybody has to have a job. I had been poor before and I wasn't going back in that direction. So I just forced myself to stay in the job, do the work, get up every morning like people do. And I found myself digging myself into a hole in life that got darker and darker and darker. You get up in the morning and you do what needs to be done. And the positive side of that was that I could pay my bills. But the negative side of that was that I felt like I was digging deeper and deeper into a hole and I couldn't even see the sky anymore. But I wouldn't allow myself to do anything else. I was so exhausted by this work that I didn't have the energy or focus to do anything else that would bring me happiness or fulfillment. There was just enough energy to get ready to do it all again the next day. I was in a dead end and I didn't know which way to turn. I had been dreaming about living overseas again. I had been watching YouTube videos and reading stories about people who had made the leap into a new country and a new life. In fact, I had gone so far as to download the application for temporary residency in Mexico the day before the next event happened last January. And that was, I got the surprise of my life when I got laid off from work with no warning. It was a true surprise for me. I didn't hear any whispers, there were no rumors, but the company said they were in dire financial straits and they had to let some of us go. Of course, my immediate thought was, I have to get another job. Oh my God, I have to learn a whole new hospital system. And the thought of it filled me with dread. It really did. But of course I would get another job. Everybody needs a job. You know, within 3 days, I had an interview lined up with the competing hospital in the same town. So there was no question that there were jobs out there, and that wasn't my worry. My worry was that I was just so unhappy at the time, and I didn't know what else to do. Somehow, I was able, for the first time, to just consider doing something else. Just think about doing something else. And I started looking at my financial situation and thinking, do I really have to get another horrible job? I felt so happy and free and excited at the thought of breaking free from this drudgery and monotony and exhaustion that it just filled my body with a lightness and a happiness I hadn't felt in so long. I took a careful look at my retirement and savings account, and I decided it was worth the risk. I was not going to get another awful job. I was going to go live in Mexico. Life in my horrible little hole was getting that bad, and it was worth the risk. It was worth any risk, really, financially, to get out of that hole and to start something new. And I could always come back to my hole. I could always come back to my old life and get another job and start over again. So I decided it was worth the risk, and that's when I decided to make the move to Mexico. I loved the thought of it, and planning and dreaming kept me going for the next 2.5 months as I prepared. I had to liquidate the household, of course, in Oregon. I had to find tenants for the house and draw up a rental agreement. I had to get rid of so many things, and which I did, and I sold a few things too. I had to arrange my banking and my cell phone and all the things you need to do to move to a new country. And the thrill of it kept me going for those 2.5 months. I did all the retirement analysis I could do that I knew how to do, and it seemed like if I was very frugal, I could just get by and live a frugal life in Mexico if I was very careful. Ultimately, life is full of crazy variables, and who knows what will happen. It's not out of the question that someday I'll have to go back to the United States and start working again. But for now, I'm excited to say that I made the move, I made the leap, and it's been life-changing. I was able to get temporary residency status in Portland, Oregon before I left. And when I got to Mexico, I completed the process, so I have a 1-year temporary residency visa here. Along with that, I was able to bring my foreign-plated car, which is paid off, which makes it a lot easier. And you get a temporary import permit when you do that. And so I'm driving my own car through Mexico. My son and siblings have been supportive of my grand plan and a little bit worried about the dangers of Mexico. And of course, the dogs would go with me. I found a tenant for the house in Oregon, and in late March, I set off to drive across the border. The journey has not been without challenges. Driving through Sonora and Sinaloa that first week, it was a little stressful. I had a small car problem. We were driving long hours. The dogs were in shock, like, what is this new life? And it was a little challenging. It wasn't until after the first 3 weeks or so that I started to decompress from all the craziness and all the stress of moving. That was 6 months ago, and the dogs and I have been through a few different regions in Mexico, as you can see from my past videos. And now we're staying for a few months near Pátzcuaro in Michoacán in this lovely lakeside rental to just rest for a while and enjoy the area. I have to say that I don't know what the future might bring, but I think this is one of the best decisions I've made in many years. I love moving around and checking out new places. Discovering different parts of Mexico has brought me a lot of joy, and not working has brought me so much peace. Freedom means a lot to me, and it always has. I've allowed myself to quit jobs in the past and go traveling for a few months at a time. And I've tried to balance that out with living very frugally and putting small amounts of money into savings over time. And that's allowed me to leave when I really needed to leave, and allowed me to come on this great adventure in Mexico. And I'm so glad I'm here. If you saw my video, 6 of the best things that have happened to me since I got to Mexico, you'll know that there have been many generosities and kindnesses shown to me since I got to Mexico. But there are bigger things, sometimes life-altering shifts that can happen when you make a big change in life. And these things could happen to you too if you choose to move to Mexico. The radical change in the pace of my life here in Mexico has been a big deal for me. There is a sacredness in slowing down and not working so much that your life is passing you by unnoticed. Since I've been to Mexico and slowed down my lifestyle, I have the focus, the energy, the awareness to see the beauty and magic around me. And it's not like there wasn't beauty and magic and nature around me in Oregon, but my head was so wrapped up in the daily struggle that I couldn't even see it, let alone be present with it. Now I can pause to listen to the wind in the trees, and it's so beautiful. I can feel that caress my skin and really appreciate it and notice the beauty and magic of life all around me. It's in these moments that I realize what a gift it is to be present in the moment and be able to appreciate life's beauty, to live without the constant rush and just appreciate the here and now. What does it do to a life to rush around for 10 years, 20 years in an exhausting lifestyle that doesn't bring you any happiness, never able to slow down and smell the roses, unhappy and exhausted, never able to even slow down or notice what's around you? And what happens to that life when you slow down enough to reconnect with nature, finally be present with the here and now, and appreciate the nature and beauty around you? To actually feel your body at rest and to do the things you love. I'll tell you what happens. Joy and happiness are experiences I almost forgot what they were like. It's been so long. And now I'm able to feel them on a daily basis. This has changed everything, and I'm so grateful. Everything from dropping 25 pounds without any effort to enjoying life instead of dreading it. It's made a profound difference for me to be here in Mexico. I'm so happy I could finally see out of my deep hole into the blue sky of Mexico, and I'm so glad I made the choice to make the leap and come. I still have plans to see more of Mexico, and after our break here in Pátzcuaro, I hope to travel to Hidalgo, Puebla, and eventually further south. I'm so grateful to have the resources and the good health to be able to do this. If you're facing your own dark hole or you feel like you're at a dead end with nowhere to turn, I want to encourage you. I know the feeling of paralysis and desperation, but life can change really quickly. And sometimes an about face in a direction you never considered before can make all the difference. Don't be like me and suffer through years because you think you have to. There are other avenues available to you. For me, it took years of suffering and then the rude awakening of a layoff to shock me enough to look in a new direction. And I'm so glad that I did. And yes, money may get tight, but new doors open all the time. And I'm not the same person that I was before, angry and bitter and unhappy nurse. So who knows what could happen? I feel like my whole life, the good and the bad, have been preparing me for this path forward. All the things I've been attracted to or interested in the past seem to blend in with this new life in Mexico. And all the struggles I went through in the past seem to have prepared me for a more successful life here. Life is a mystery, but people weren't meant to just work for the almighty dollar and suffer through years and years of drudgery. Be brave and allow yourself to think, just think of what you might do instead. You don't have to act on it, but allow yourself to consider other avenues for life. It could lead to taking a giant leap and changing for the better all your years ahead. It is a gorgeous day here. It's October and the weather's changing. It smells like fall and I'm sad. The time of the fireflies seems to be over, but it's a gorgeous day and it is a time for wildflowers. Time passes quickly and none of us know how long we have in this precious life. Let's make the most of it and live in a way that we can truly appreciate it.